Joel R. Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards quickly and easily on the internet. TCG Player, the best place to buy them, have stores compete for your purchase. Dragon Shield, the best sleeves in the multiverse and the best way to protect your cards. And Moxfield, the only place to put your deck lists on the internet. I want to start by jumping back to Aether Drift. I know nobody liked that set, but I've got a couple of picks from the set in the video today, starting with the Verges. Wastewood Verge Borderless is at an all-time low right now of $4.20. Heyo. And that sort of signified to me, let's take a look at the Verges and maybe make sure that it's a good time to buy these. I mean, look at them. Add a green or add a black if you control a swamp or forest. In the color identities that want these lands, they play very strong in your commander deck, and it could be a cool time to pick up the borderless ones in particular. If you look at the rest of the set, Riverpire Verge under $10. That's the most expensive borderless Verge right now. That's the red and blue one. Look at the foils, $15-ish or less, around 10 for the second tier, and then down from there. Most of the Verges are at good pickup ranges right now. I will say they're not all at all-time lows, but you can see a slight jump with Riverpire Verge, the most expensive one there, still at a decent pickup number. And we know that these treatments, the borderless versions in particular, are unlikely to ever show up again in that exact treatment. So looking at cards like Wastewood Verge in the borderless, looking at cards like even Riverpire Verge in the borderless might be a good time to upgrade your decks a little bit and take a peek at the foils. It's not even that bad to bling it out even more. How the Mighty Have Fallen, Craterhoof Behemoth from Commander Masters at an all-time low of $13 right now. The price on this one has fallen significantly as an eye roller of a win con, but multiple reprints will do that to you. We got it in Commander Masters. We got it in Tarkir Dragonstorm, around $12.63 for this copy, the absolute cheapest one right now, the standard base copy of Craterhoof Behemoth. This is a really great time. Most of us have moved on mentally from Tarkir. Most of us are in the process of moving on mentally from Final Fantasy, and so it's a good time to start looking back at some of the more recent sets and see where the pickups lie. I think it's a great time to pick up Craterhoof. This is the cheapest I've ever seen one. This is one of those like boomer brain cards for me where I'm like, oh, Craterhoof Behemoth, that's a $30 card easily. But right now, you can go get yourself one for $10 or a foil for $13 from Tarkir Dragonstorm. And that's not to mention if you want the OG art, the Chris Ron here on the Commander Masters copy, go grab yourself a copy of that one. Saw in Half is an insane card, number one. You're absolutely going to have to all work together to figure out exactly what happens when you use this on your own creature. But it's now been reprinted twice in major ways. Once here with the version from Commander Bloomborough that you can see, kind of showing you the universes within one first, because most people will prefer that. We also did get the Universe Beyond Deadpool Saw in Half as well, only about $5 on that one. It popped up in Unfinity. That was the first time we saw it, and that's why it was scarce for the longest time. It was one of those cards in Unfinity that was legal, even though it was in an unset. It was legal for typical play, I guess you could say. So now having it in the Commander Bloomborough set gives us more universes within. Not that an unset isn't universes within. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But lots of people play this in Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, Chatterfang, Squirrel General gets Saw in Half a lot. Hashiton could get absolutely nutty with this. So there's a couple of homes that this card could slot right into. Saw in Half here with a squirrel on it. Excellent pickup range at around $5. Get some shenanigans going, and if you want to get super shenanigan-y with it, go grab yourself a Deadpool copy. Renewed Solidarity came from the Commander Aether Drift Zombie deck with Temet, Noctimon's Will, and Hashiton as the Lieutenant Commander. As you can see, the hype for this one was insane out of the gate. It seemed to people like another kind of anointed procession. A white and 2, as the enchantment enters, you name a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+0, and at the beginning of your end step, for each token you control of the chosen type that entered this turn, you create a token that's a copy of it. So people were like, oh, it's the second coming of Anointed Procession. It must be a $40 card. And as you can see at this point, it's fallen down to single digits, around $6 to grab you a copy. This is the kind of like, are you playing a Kindred deck, and does that Kindred deck heavily feature tokens? If both of the answers to that are yes, and white is in the color identity, you should definitely be grabbing a copy of this, because this card is going to go absolutely insane in that deck that I just described very specifically, and it's still very powerful. It's not quite Anointed Procession. You just heard the hoops that I told you need to jump through before this card is sick in your deck. And I think people overrated it a little bit for that reason. Edgar Markov, Verena Lich Queen, Zurgo, like any Zurgo that's making the tokens, the new Zurgo from Dragonstorm Tarkir. These are the kinds of commanders that want this card immediately and are going to get upgraded so fast if you go grab a copy of this. Wanted to call this one out specifically because I think for me personally, price memory on this one was, oh, that's super expensive. I'm going to wait till a reprint, but it's fallen so far now, you don't really have to. You can just go grab a copy. Valgavoth Terror Eater, I can say with confidence, is one of my favorite creatures of the last year to get into the graveyard and then reanimate for 1 mana and 9 life. Flying lifelink, the ward is they have to sacrifice 3 non-lands to even be able to target. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you exile it, and during your turn you can play cards exiled with Valgavoth with life instead of mana value. This thing does it all, and on top of it, it's a flying lifelinking 9/9. I love this card so much. This one plays pretty heavily in Kalia decks, obviously being a demon. Hashiton decks really like it too. That's really just to say that Reanimator decks like it, honestly. Hashiton is sort of a backdoor take on Reanimator where you're discarding the thing, you're paying the mana, and then you're getting copies of it. You can see how that would be good with Valgavoth, though not as strong as a 4/4 when it should be a 9/9, but still very playable in there. Be'lakor, the Dark Master, loves it because it's a demon. Betor loves it because it's got life link. Lots of places for this card to find a home. Personally, I play it in Dahada because, like I said, I love to reanimate this thing. Right now at an all-time low of $12, this is a mythic that I think is going to hover between that 10 to 12. I think that's where it's mostly going to stay before rotation, and I don't know, somewhere between now and the heat death of the sun rotates Duskmourn out of standard. It's just going to be a while before this is not a standard card. So I think that it's going to be a little while before it falls into those single digits. So great pickup right now, especially compared to the over 40 that it premiered. I got 2 more base copy cards that I want to show you, and then I've got some special frames that have hit some all-time lows that you might be interested in. Murktide Regent, though, from Modern Horizons 2 is my penultimate base copy here. Around $7.83 for Murktide right now. And you can see this one has peaked over $20 at various times. I think that that potentially could happen again. We're maybe at a point now where there's enough supply of Murktide Regent that it's never going to ping back over that $20 even if it does become a playable. But Modern Horizons 2 was heavily opened. I think there's been plenty of stock, plenty of inventory, available copies for Murktide Regent for a while now. And so seeing it pop over $20 there at the end of 2024, very interesting to me, especially considering how in the first year or so of its life, it spent most of that time over $20. Regardless, even if you don't want multiple copies to play in your Legacy or Modern deck, Murktide Regent plays well in Commander as well. It's a dragon that can have its cost reduced and plays with graveyard synergies. Savitri Dragon Master is one of the main decks that run this card. Tasigur, the Golden Fang, Niv Mizzet, cards like this that are spellcaster cards or that are playing with the graveyard a lot may want to take a peek at this dragon and see if they want to threat that they can sort of delve cheat onto the battlefield. Ajani Nikado Pariah plays in the most played Modern deck with Boros Energy, but it has fallen significantly. Modern Horizons 3 was a set that was majorly opened, and a lot of the base copies now are starting to get down to those all-time lows. So check out the whole set is good advice that I can provide to you. But right now, Ajani is in a great pickup range. $8.24 for this card that has spent time over $40, over $20. If you want it for your Commander deck, it's a great time to go pick up a single of it. Ren and Ciri, Inseparable, obviously run this. It's a cat. That deck loves it. Caesar, Legion's Emperor, loves that it's creating tokens. Jetmir, Nexus of Revels, loves that there are multiple creatures getting put onto the battlefield. Winota, Joiner of Forces, loves that non-human creatures are attacking so that we can go and get some human creatures from our deck. Ajani has a lot of play. It's a strong card at 2 mana, and I don't think you're ever going to regret it having it, especially in a deck that want to go wide, or need cats, that's where this one's going to really thrive. Also worth noting that the Ajani in the borderless treatment is at an all-time low now of around $15 as well. Typically, these videos are hitting cards that are under that $10 range, but when there's a card that's very cool looking, in my opinion, and also hitting, I like to call it out. Really, Modern Horizons 3 just in general, good time to go and look at that set and see if there's any singles from it that you want that you didn't pick up. Let's use that to swap over into special frame cards and take another peek at Aether Drift. Riptide Gearhulk says when it enters, for each opponent, put up to one target non-land permanent that player controls into its owner's library, third from the top. That's so obnoxious. And in blue and white, this creature gets blinked so easily. Plus, you've got the new Jeskai deck from Tarkir Dragonstorm, Double Strike Prowess on this creature as well. There's a couple of different archetypes that this could play in, and this treatment, by the way, so sick. All-time low right now of $4.71. So obnoxious. Man, blue and white, this creature gets Ricky didn't want to buy so any easily. Of this. Ricky bought plus way too many collector packs. Jeskai deck Final Fantasy. Tarkir Dragonstorm. Find as many as you want to spend money on this creature as well. And he did not spend any money at all on Aether Drift. And this just means that Ricky can loop back, grab a copy of Riptide Gearhulk in a sexy treatment for $4, $5, a foil of it. Which look at that art. You know that foil would go hard. $13 for a copy like that. I don't know. It's a good time to go back and look at Aether Drift and see if there are any cool cards that are going to fit well into any decks that you've already got. Riptide Gearhulk getting a lot of play in cards like Mendicant Core, Guidelight, Hashiton yet again. Loving this card, splitting it, getting that ability. Oof, that's rough. Satya, Aetherflux Genius really loves this one. Cheated in, get extra copies of it. Brago, King Eternal. That's what I was talking about with the flashy blinking stuff. This is the kind of creature that, oh man, the third or fourth time you blink this thing, I'm probably just going to go to scoop phase. I'm going to be honest. Let's look at the first place foils as well. There are two here that I want to call out. This is way past the $10 range. I'll be honest with you. This is down to $36, but this was pretty much the chase card from this set. Ketramos, copies of Ketramos were. This is definitely one of them. The Aether Spark is the top one, but Ketramos here in what people lovingly refer to as the P border is down to an all-time low. If you've got a Ketramos deck, you built it as a commander, you were waiting for like a super special version to get low enough to pimp out that commander, here it is. You can get the P border version and go grab yourself a copy at an all-time low. These are really, really falling overall. Obviously, your base copy is where your cheapest ones are going to hit. And you can see the most expensive one is your first place foil of the borderless Ketramos. That one at an all-time low, but it's about $90 to go and get the most pimped out version of Ketramos. I think right now, even if you just want to get the borderless copy in foil, it's under $20. So there's some options there. But you can see the chart. Aether Drift is falling. It is time to go and check out Aether Drift, see if there happen to be one or two cards that you wanted a copy of. And I would say Ketramos here in our all-time low, in our base copy, in our P border version. Great time to go look at this one. Another P border copy is the Sabsunin Luxa Embodied. Yeah, she's right there. Wood. Sabsunin in our P border, $42 all-time low right now. I just thought it was interesting that some of these top treatments from Aether Drift are now completely crashing out, even though these were super hard to pull. Very rare, you know, because there were so many options in that first place foil slot where those could be pulled. Sabsunin plays well, obviously, as the commander, but Indominus Rex really loves Reach, Trample, and Indestructible. Eshki Teamer's Roar just loves a big old creature for 5 mana because you're looking for power 6 or greater with Eshki's final payoff there. Look at Miss Bumbleflower, though. This is a great card in that. You're doing +1 counter shenanigans, and you've got a reaching, trampling, indestructible threat that you can give flying. Sabsunin here for me, same as Ketramos. It's a commander that people are interested in. It's a good Simic card that people are interested in for their Simic decks. And so I think if you want a first place foil version of it, it's definitely the time to go and check that out. One more that I want to call out, it did not take off from Dragonstorm Tarkir like I thought it would. I never said it on camera, but I had my eye on this one around Dragonstorm. This is the Foundations borderless copy. Lots of Foundations got opened, y'all, but a borderless Mythic whose foil is under $10 as well. Instants and sorceries being cast, that happens in Commander. Rite of the Dragoncaller will create you a 5/5 flyer every single time you cast. an instant or sorcery. It doesn't even have to resolve. Storm, Force of Nature, Niv Mizzet, Visionary. Both of these cards, Foundations Niv Mizzet specifically, you're loving. Veyron, Voice of Duality, Spellcaster commanders that are absolutely going to go insane if you're throwing 5/5 flyers out every single time you cast a spell. A $5 Mythic in Borderless at this point, if you've got some sort of crazy spellcastery 5/5 dragon creating need, Rite of the Dragon Color has your back, and it looks cool. And let's wrap up by checking in on an old friend, the lowest price that this card has ever been at. Sweet Dockside Extortionist, you died for sins that were legitimate and you needed to go. $10 if you want to grab this for cube at this point. If you want a cube Dockside Extortionist, it's only $10 to grab you one now. It would have been $75 in July of last year. Insane what has happened over the last year to this card, but a ban will do that. You're looking at $10 for a Dockside Extortionist from Commander 2019. You've also got versions from Double Masters 22 that are dropping in price. $30 for your Borderless there. Still just under $90 for the Etched on Dockside. I feel like that's people maybe making bets that it'll get unbanned one day. But if I had to put chips down, I would say the Dockside Extortionist is never getting unbanned in Commander. So if you want one, you're using it in cube, or you're rule zeroing this into your Commander decks, and your pod is cool with high level play that you use broken cards in. That's what you're doing here. Those are my great pickups for the beginning of July 25. Let me know down in the comments if you've seen any card at a great price. I'd love to talk to you about it there. If I helped you find any cards, hit that subscribe button or hit that like button if you already have. And if you want to support me directly, go check out the Patreon. There's a lot of cool stuff over there. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.
अगर आप एनआरआई हैं तो रिटायरमेंट के बाद आपको भी मिल सकते हैं 7 से 8 लाख रुपए, वो भी हर महीने। यकीन नहीं होता ना? आइए बताता हूं कैसे।
Hi everyone and welcome back to your weekly installment of the Reserve List Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards on the Reserve List from June 28th to July 5th of 2025. Just how affected are cards right now because of new upcoming sets? Let's find out together. Hey guys, you're back with the Mox Man and we're talking about reserve list cards. You love these weekly updates as much as me, that's why you're here today. A reminder, if you're shopping for any of these cards on TCG Player, don't forget to use my TCG Player affiliate link. It is found in the description of this video. Now let's take a look at our number 10 card this week. And yeah, Mox Diamond from Stronghold is back on this list. Now, it's not at an all-time high. At $734.99 per near mint copy, this one's still about $150 away from the all-time high. But this thing has been cruising at higher altitudes, and that's due to its playability in multiple formats. 29 sales this week equals out to $21,000 in total sales action. And although this card is kind of stagnant and where it's moving in the market right now, it's still not losing any ground either, and the sales are slowly piling up. Will this mean that we are going to see a card start rising in value, or is this card going to stay put? That's what players are kind of wondering right now in the market space. Is it going to be in their best interest to hang on, or is something different going to happen later on that makes it worth your while to get in on this card earlier? I mean, this is one of those cards that can definitely spike to above the 2,000 range over time, and that's because of its unique playability. It goes into any deck that needs land, and that's where that card is. Let's go ahead and dive into our number 9 card this week, and it's Copy Artifact from Revised Edition. Now again, this is another one that's off of its all-time high, but at number 9 with 31 sales, that's still $2,500 of total sales action. The ability of the card and the cheapest form of it ever existing means you're not likely going to ignore this card for the long run. Even though it's going down, we do see people taking a nibble here and a nibble there just to kind of rack 1 or 2 copies up for their collection, and that's just due to its playability. It fits in really good in Commander decks, and a lot of Vintage and Legacy players love to use cards like this, of course. Now, let's not forget how many reprints this thing has had, but that doesn't seem to do anything for the playability factor of this card, and as these copies leave the market space, well, you're left wondering how many are really going to be out there in the long run, how many get returned, and how high can this card really go. Now, for our next card coming in at number 8 this week, we're talking about Scorched Ruins from Weatherlight. Now, this is all based now on the Eldrazi that we saw coming around again inside of Edge of Eternities. Because of that little snippet of information, a little spoiler here, this is how the reserve list can start, really start jumping ship and doing some crazy stuff. Now, Scorched Ruins at 34 copies really doesn't seem to be breaking anything down for you, but let's face facts. This card has been a lot higher, and it still can go a lot higher. Its ability to tap for 4 mana, no matter the drawback, means this is one of those cards in the long run you do want to own about 4 copies just to say you at least have a play set for future use. Later on, if this card goes to the $200-300 level, we go to City of Traders type way. Well, a card like this just isn't going to be as affordable for players. So do you want to pay for one later when it's super expensive, or get one when it's sub $80 and get a near mint copy for its future, flippability and like? I say get it now while you still can, assuming you still need a copy. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the next card, because we're going back to Revised, because this is Fork. A little bit of a surprise to see it on the list this week. It is an average price of $35, of course. And when we look at this card in the number 7 positions and see it's at 35 sales, that's only $1,225. It's not a massive amount of money, but it's enough to kind of make you sit there and go, Fork is one of those cards that you probably already had 4 copies if you've been around the game a long time. And a lot of decks do like to use it, especially in Commander. And I look at this one, and myself coming back in the days of Time Walk, Fork, rehashing this over and over again as a combination, using things like Time Twister to regurgitate the same idea. This is one of those fan favorites a lot of us remember back in the day. And a lot of new players probably never even heard of this card. Although there are different iterations of the same kind of playability factor, just not quite as unique as Fork itself. As with all reserve list cards, they do something and they do it very well. Now for our next card coming in at number 6, it's the Academy Rector, jumping back in from Urza's Destiny. Now this card's at $79.63 per copy, and you can see at 38 sales, that's not a massive amount, but it's still $3,000 of sales action, and that's because this card's losing value. People have backed out of this one. They either had more copies come to market than we needed at the time, and that has brought the price back down to a little bit more of an attainable level for a lot of players to enjoy. Now, myself, Academy Rector, I don't need to buy any. I've got enough in my hands. I got 4 plus a couple inside decks, so I feel pretty confident that I myself, the Moxman, don't need any. But I look at other players out there, and we've seen where this card can go because of these new enchantments coming around. Being able to go back into your deck, take an enchantment after this thing leaves play, and then just putting it directly into play is just insane, considering how powerful so many enchantments are nowadays. It's not like an Underworld Dreams from back in the 90s. These things are game-ending enchantments now. For our next card, we got to talk about Lake of the Dead. This is the same as Scorched Ruins, coming to us from Alliances, $87.52 per near mint copy. This one's been as high as $300 back in the spikes of 2021, but now at 48 copies and $4,200, that's still a lot of money, but it's not an insurmountable amount for a lot of players to get in there. Let's not forget the iconic artwork and, of course, the Eldrazi conversation coming around again. This is one of the cards you probably don't want to ignore if you don't own one. Now, the good news is there's lots of moderately and heavily played copies that are going to save you 20-30% if you need to have the card now. It's not going to hurt you, but look at that artwork. It just screams everything that is awesome growing up in Magic in the 90s. Seeing that thing again, every time I see it, it just takes my breath away and says, that is awesome artwork. I think most people are going to agree with that one. Drop a comment for Pete. I don't know the guy, but I got to say that's pretty awesome artwork. Now, for our next card today, I got to be honest, we have a few surprises this week. And this one kind of got in there too. And this is Grim Monolith, Urza's Legacy. And you can see here at $374.62. This is not a cheap card. This is now getting to mid-level reserve list cards. But 49 sales is $18,000+ of sales action. The good news is a lot of the copies being bought are heavily played and moderately played, which means you saved a few bucks there. But not only that, when you see copies like that moving, it's not flippers and scalpers, generally speaking. It is going to be players buying these for their commander decks, buying it for future play, because they're not looking for near mint. They're not looking to collect it and hold on to it. They're looking to play with this card. Now, there are other iterations of cards like this that do the same thing, but Grim Monolith at 2 casting is just too sweet of a deal for a lot of players to pass up. And when they hear about or learn about this card from the reserve list, a lot of people will save up some money, trade in some cards, and get their hands on this. And by the way, a lot of these are due to the Unfinity lands. A lot of the things that happened in today's video were trade-ins to get some of these reserve list cards. Now, the next one, Wheel of Fortune, is again the same type of situation. It's got a lot of sales this week, topping it at number 3, 68 sales. But I can tell you right now, a lot of this was trading in cards that have recently spiked inside of Final Fantasy, as well as Unfinity and a few of the Mox Amber situation. And we have cards like this now leaving the market in droves because modern cards are going to crap you in at around $100. When you crack into that market and you say, I could crack that and get that card and it's worth that much money, I'm going to come out ahead. I can get myself that Wheel of Fortune because I just saved myself $100. It's insane that some of these new cards now can let you and allow you to go back into the market and enjoy older cards at just breakneck prices. The deal of a century for a lot of people, especially if you got in early on some of these cards and now they're just worth so much money that you can sit there and go, I can trade these in and buy power cards. That's insane. But that's where the market is right now for the reserve list. It's still expensive, but new cards are worth so much money, they're allowing players to go back and get what they want. Now, our number 2 card this week is the Sliver Queen from Stronghold. We all know the rumors. We all know what's going around. The Sliver is the boogeyman of Edge of Eternities. Nobody's seen them. Nobody's heard them. What are you talking about? These aren't real things. Yeah, they are real. They are out there and the multiverse should be afraid. When I see 75 sales this week, it tells me everything I need to know. Players buying this card right now are mainly buying light played copies and they are happy to be able to get in there at the ground level. Now the good news is, this card is not going to stay at a real high. This is an interest because of a market spike based on the cards coming in from Edge of Eternities. Cards like this do not hold about a year and a half out at most. Most times it's actually 6 to 9 months. So this card will settle back down and allow a lot of players to get in there and enjoy copies at a better price point if you don't need to have it instantly. If you're willing to wait and build it up, you're going to be fine hanging in there to get this card. Now, it's time to talk about the number 1 card this week. The number 1 card is something I didn't think was going to be here, but it's back again, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So our number 1 card this week is going to be Replenish Urza's Destiny. Now, of course, just a month and a half ago, this thing was at an all-time high of $155. It's at $133 per copy. It sold 81 copies or $10,700 worth. Most of the copies leaving the market are moderate, light played, and near mint. They're kind of an even spread in this case, and there's a lot of value with this one, so pay attention, guys. This is one of those cards that a lot of players are hoping to get their hands on. The fact that Replenish brings all your enchantment cards back from the graveyard and resurrects all of these enchantments means nowadays with all these crazy Final Fantasy amazing cards, bringing back all these creatures like the Summoned Titan and Behemoth and all these great guys, it just tells you where people are at. They recognize cards like this are going to have longer term value based on the evolution of Magic the Gathering. Older cards can wax and wane, but certain ones like this are going to hang in there for the long run, and you really shouldn't ignore it. If you can get one, get it now while the getting's good. Let's talk about what else is going on in the market. As with any new set, Edge of Eternities brings the chance for the reserve list to shine, to bring a spotlight onto older cards that will now be recognized. Now, it doesn't have to be something like Sliver Queen, but when you take the nostalgic factor of Slivers and the fact that Sliver Queen is the only one on the reserve list, I mean, of course it's going to be paid attention to. When you look at all the new enchantments we've been getting in the last 24 months, cards like Academy Rector and Replenish make perfect sense. When you're looking for the ability to draw cards and you're like, how can I make this happen? A card like Wheel of Fortune, of course, it's going to catch your eye and get your interest. But here's the real kicker. Here's the change-up that a lot of players don't always see. And that is new values of cards right now in the market we're in have so much more value than they used to. These aren't $10 and $20 mythics. Some of these cards are hundreds of dollars and allow you to do peer-to-peer trades directly for older reserve list cards that are 30 years old. The ability to have cards you never thought possible because you didn't want to spend the money, but you open a brand new pack of Final Fantasy, you find some crazy card in Edge of Eternities, maybe some serialized card from a different set, but the value is up. The value determines that it is now worth it. And I can trade that card directly for the reserve list. I can go and get myself a Taiga, a Scrubland. I can go in and maybe trade a few cards and get myself a Volcanic or an Underground Sea. We are starting to see a leveling of the playing field for some of these values, and it is truly shocking for many people. So when you look at these new cards and you look at the value and you say to yourself, well, how often is this going to happen? It is going to continue to happen. It's not going to stop. There may be moments of pause, there may be some mistakes or some miscalculations, but the overall market right now seems to accept the new cards and the pure trading that goes on for older cards to allow players to have this new ability to access old reserve list cards. And the fact that reserve list cards are so cheap now, comparatively speaking to where they were 5 years ago, leaves you a whole new playing field of players that as they discover these cards, they have the chance to buy them. Epic times for everyone. I can't wait to see what happens next. So thanks again for hanging out. Thanks for being here on the channel today. And of course, I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. And maybe you're going to stop by my channel tonight for the, of course, live stream, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have our Patreon giveaway for the reserve list cards. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. Stop by if you get a chance. Hey guys, thanks again for being here on the channel and thanks for stopping by. A big shout out and thank you, of course, to all the amazing patrons we have here supporting the channel each and every day. I mean, if you want to be a patron, you might find a slot, but then again, maybe you can't. Don't forget that, you know what, things change every day. You may be able to find an opportunity to become a patron later on. If not, join my YouTube membership members. You can support that way as well. Thanks again, everyone. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, of course, with another video. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You made it to the end, my friends. Now, I don't have a lot to say today. We already know that the reserve list is actually doing pretty good overall, considering how expensive new cards are. It just makes the reserve list look that much cheaper. People trading into reserve list cards is always a good thing, and allowing those players access to old cards at a reasonable price is pretty epic into itself. So where does that leave us? I don't know. I have a lot of people emailing me, asking me, wait, is this going... Is mine starting to lag? Hey, I don't know if it's lagging or not, but this is a ramble jamble. I can't do anything about it, boys and girls. Whatever happens here at this point stays. It looks like it's lagging. Anyway, I guess I'll get off here in case something's going wrong with the computer. But what can we do? This ramble jamble's over. Brought to you by something going wrong? I don't know. Final Fantasy prices for singles are starting to fluctuate, and with a lot of cards in the market right now, there's some really good deals to be had. So in today's video, I'm giving you 5 cards I think are worth a second look and might be worthy of your purchase. Final Fantasy, it might be the hottest thing out there, but it's not immune to price fluctuation. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for hanging out with me today for another video. Now, what do I mean by this? A price fluctuation? Well, there's a lot of cards in the market right now. A lot of Final Fantasy is still being opened right now, and the singles market is booming like you wouldn't believe. Now, that of course means that there's a lot of cards opened, a lot of cards buying and selling, and there's always a chance that as prices go down, people figure a card's not worth their time, and they just kind of skip it and move on to the hotter, more mainstream cards that may be out there. But as we all know, and we do know, whenever a new set comes along, Edge of Eternity, Spider-Man, anything you can think of, there's a chance for these things to turn around and become some amazingly awesome card that everyone is after. You don't want to be at the back of a sinking ship when that happens. You want to have the forethought and skill to look at a card and say to yourself, could I see this being used anywhere else? Is there shenanigans that could go down if X, Y, or Z were ever invented? Which is why I'm giving you guys 5 cards today that I think deserve a second look, and I'm going to explain why. So let's start out here with card number 1. Now, this is Zach Fair, and I'm going with the Surge Foil because Surge Foils are really hot right now. They're really big, and I think they're going to stay that way for a while. Now, of course, this card is not, the hottest Surge Foil out there, hence the price being only like $16. Now, it's an uncommon, it's not the most expensive card, but being a Surge Foil will give it a certain amount of rarity, a certain amount of panache to go with the card, okay? Now, the second thing here is looking at the card. Why would I even recommend a card like this? Well, it's a 1 casting cost 0/1 legendary creature, Human Soldier. There's a lot going on just in the text box. Legendary creature, that's 1. Human Soldier, that's 2 and 3, depending on what you're building inside Commander, or maybe you're using in Modern or Standard. There's a lot to use and reuse over and over with a card like Zach. Now, what do we have for the actual card, though? It says, Zach Fair enters with a +1/+1 counter on. Okay, so he's a 1/2 for 1. Pretty epic already. He's vanilla, but it's pretty epic. Now he has 1. Sacrifice. Zach Fair. Target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. And put Zach Fair's counters on that creature. Now, he only comes with 1, of course, but there's other ways of getting counters onto creatures. And also it says you can also move an equipment that was attached to Zach Fair to that creature as well. So you're going to be utilizing a big kind of shift in power level by sacrificing Zach and moving things over. That's a lot to go with right now. That's a lot right there that makes this card stand out as something you can utilize not only now, but also later. So what do the sales tell us? The sales are a little more interesting in the fact that not everyone's diving in to buy this particular Surge Foil, but there's enough sales out there every few days to say, as the price of the Surge Foil is going down, there is an appetite to pick up the card on the falling knife, to grab this card as it gets cheaper. And that's something you can't really ignore because there will be a bottom. And that bottom is where you'd like to hit it if you're going for a Surge Foil, because you can always get the upswing later on when this card becomes hot, maybe 8-9 months down the road. But again, there's already a lot that you can use right now to make this card valuable. So it's a card I'm mentioning, even though it's a $16 card, I'm bringing this one up. Now, for our next card, I want to jump over and talk about Cecil, Dark Knight. And of course, the Cecil Redeemed Paladin. Now, again, this card is a single black, right? You can see here, it came in at around the $25 level, and it fell ever since. It hung around at around 20 bucks, which means a playset of 4 was like $80. It hung that way for a whole month, and then it shifted down again and shifted down again, and of course, we're at the $3 level. And at $3, I gotta be honest, Cecil does seem like a bit of a bargain, because as a single black legendary creature human knight, he is a 2/3 with death touch. He has a power called Darkness, and Darkness says whenever Cecil deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life, you get to untap Cecil and transform him, and then he becomes something entirely different. So let's think about this. He's a 1 casting cost 2/3 legendary creature human knight. There's, again, a lot of text box information going on. And I'd like to mention here, you probably have noticed that Mox Amber is going up a lot. Well, think about it. It's going to generate mana from these creatures on turn 1. Lay a land, see I'm going with this. Lay a land, swamp, lay out Cecil, or you got the Mox Amber out there and you're already doing it for Modern or in Commander. You got options with cards like this that can trigger other cards, and we've seen quite the surge because low casting cost legendary creatures make Mox Amber stand out. Now, of course, we're not done because we also have Cecil, the Redeemed Knight. When you flip this thing over, it gets lifelink and protect. Whenever Cecil attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible end of turn. That means you're going to make everything untouchable for a little while. For some reason, this reminds me of The Last Starfighter. I don't know what it is. It's just him reaching up like that. It reminds me of that movie from the 80s. Great movie. It needs a remake, but it's a great movie. I look at that and say it's a 4/4. Basically for 1, depending on how you do it. And you can make yourself lose life to flip this quicker. Don't think you can't find jerry-rigging ways to make this work for you. Now, what do the sales tell us, though, and what are we looking at? Well, when you're looking at the sales for Cecil, they're really high.
Okay, this one is starting to pick up a lot of steam and has sold a few hundred copies in the last few days. So although the price is falling because of how many are on the market, this is one I'm afraid could flip over and maybe cause a little bit of trouble if you're trying to get in there a little bit later. Because if something comes along and makes this card hit, it's going to be a whole different deal. And you want to get in when it's like less than $5, of course. And at $3 and change, this one's got enough oomph to it that you really can't ignore it. A play set for like $12, that seems like a pretty reasonable deal to me. But let's move on to our next card, because you can't get through the day without mentioning Jumbo. Now, this card, of course, started at $100, and we remember on this channel referencing the people who paid $100 for this card on pre-order. Now, when we're looking at Jumbo and you look at what this card's offering us, okay, let's not forget that it's losing money month over month, okay? This thing's down to like a $5 card. And at $5, this card, really, you can't ignore it anymore because it's a 7 casting cost for a 1/7, but the 10,000 needles is insane. Plus, this thing's a plant. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9,999 plus 0 until end of turn. You can also give this thing trample, indestructible, can't be blocked this turn. Oh, there is so much going on with Jumbo that I bet you kind of figured as well that, yeah, the secondary market for this card has really heated up in the last couple of days, and a lot of copies are now starting to leave the open market and find their way into people's, protective plant pockets because, they want to grow the Jumbo and have a good time for their own decks, but they also realize this card could be something big later on, and some people are just speculating just to see what's going to happen with the card at some future point. Now, if we jump over and take a look at our next card, this is Ultima. All right, now the Origin of Oblivion extended art, because at $4, why not? It's got some pretty good stuff going on, and again, it's lost over $30 in the last month alone, okay? This thing was a $75. It dropped until the point where it's like, wow, this one here, why were people even looking at this rare? What had it going for that everyone said this was worth looking at, man? Well, it's a 5 casting cost 4/4 colorless, which means really you shouldn't ignore it because any generic colorless thing can be kind of crazy. It has flying, all right, but it says whenever Ultima attacks, put a blight counter on a target land. For as long as that land has the blight counter on it, it loses all land types and abilities and has tap to add waste mana to, colorless mana to your mana pool. Whenever you tap a land for colorless, you tap for an additional. So you can pump up your own stuff. You can make your own stuff get really crazy, which means things like Ugin and some of these other huge colorless things like Behemoth and stuff can get really nutty really quick. If you can find a way to trick these things out and get mana pumping fast, you could have a colorless deck that's crazy, but mostly people are starting to think about this for Eldrazi Tron, okay? You're trying to think into the future of Commander, of where a card like this may go. And the sales are definitely starting to lean in that direction, that we have a little bit of momentum on this card, not as much as others, because you can see it's only got 7, 8, 9 sales in a day. That's really not that much, but when you add it up over the week, it's still a couple hundred sales. It's enough to say, why would people buy it now? What does it have going for it? Well, the falling price makes it kind of scream out that I should be looking at the card, because it does a lot depending on how you decide to use it. But this, unlike other cards we've talked about, this one doesn't have a be-all fix-it for all kinds of different decks. It'll have a particular use that could go off very well, and if we have trouble with really unique lands later, the fact he can put blight counters on when he attacks can lend a little bit of diversity to your deck to allow you to cover different areas of how you're going to deal with special lands when they come into play. So I like the card because he can fit into any deck as well. Now, to save myself from getting a whole bunch of nasty comments in the comment section about the Moxman's pronunciation, this is the Cat Druid. I'm not pronouncing that name. Now, this one was at $75, dropped down to the $40, and continued to fall below $20 until we're at $5.95. But this is a Mythic. It is Universes Beyond its Final Fantasy. So what's going on with the card that might make it worth your while? Well, take a closer look. It is 6 casting costs. I'm going to be the first to admit that is cost prohibitive if you're playing Standard. But in a Commander deck, that's not the end of the world, and there's lots of ways of tricking cards out. And this legendary creature is a cat and a druid, so we've got some options there. Now, for a 3/5, it seems a little bit weak on the power cycle of what it can do, sure, but the text box means everything. And this card says, at the beginning of your end step, exile target creature you control, and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Then at the end, if it's the first end step, there is an additional end step after that end step. Guys, that's crazy. That's a double trigger effect at the end of exiling things. There is craziness that can happen that can't be ignored, and I can't believe this card is not a hotter item right now for a lot of players. But here's the thing. It really is. There is a lot of people out there who have been purchasing cards like this, okay? These cards aren't just disappearing. We're not seeing a few hundred sales for no reason. We are seeing these sales now because as this card got repriced, people took a second look and said, you know what? Maybe there's something more to this card that I need to pay attention to. And that is something we can always do with any Magic set. But Final Fantasy is offering too many possibilities of amazing cards to be used in multiple formats to be ignored. And Lord of the Rings has taught us that. So these are 5 cards I think are worthy of a second look. I want you guys to drop some comments in the comment section about cards you think deserve a second look. And of course, the list I just gave you right now. I want to thank you again for hanging out today on the channel. And I hope you have an awesome day. I mean, this is an amazing game to play. We're getting closer every day to the next set, but for now we get some weekends to enjoy all these cards after the bannings and just see what we can create. And I hope you have a blast at any of the formats you decide to play this weekend. Shop smart, shop S-smart, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow with another video. Well, here we are at the end of the video, looking at all the amazing patrons of my channel who support each and every month. Without these patrons, well, let's face it, we couldn't do what we do. If you're a patron or a YouTube membership member, I want to thank you again for being a supporter of the channel. I look forward to seeing you guys each and every day with a brand new video, so have a great one, and of course, we'll see you all tomorrow. Alright, welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. I wish I had more for you. I wish my brain was in that space right now, but all it says is sleep, Moxman, sleep. I have a coffee here. It's doing nothing. The work cycle is really catching up right now, so I'm not even going to hang out here. I'm going to bed. You guys go to bed. We'll all meet in Dreamland together and talk about Magic. And you know what? We can discuss this video because, hey, it's a Ramble Jamble. I can say anything here. Ramble! Jamble! Oh, I'm so tired. Good night, everybody.
What is up, everybody? How is everyone doing out there today? Welcome back to Wildcat MTG, and today we have a Final Fantasy Play Booster Box battle. How this thing is going to work is we have 5 participants. Each one of them is going to get 6 packs. We're going to open this packs in rounds of 3, adding up the mana values for all the rares and all the mythics. And at the end of this thing, the person with the highest total mana value and the person with the lowest total mana value are each going to get an additional 6 Final Fantasy Play Booster packs for themselves. In the event of a tie, we will take the highest mana value mythic as the first tiebreaker and the highest mana value rare as the second tiebreaker. And if we need a third tiebreaker, we will go down the line with the highest mana value rare until there is a tie, no more. All right. So along the lines of like best of intentions and maybe not so well thought out, every new set I try to do like one of the events where it's like double prize support. And you know, in the spirit of that, I was like, Final Fantasy, that's going to really drive up, like, just the entry point into a collector battle. So I was like, all right, we'll do it for a play booster box. Not really realizing that if I have 30 packs to open for the box and then another 12 packs to open for for the prize support, that's 42 packs. So I'm going to try to fly through this today. This video is not insanely long. I already go long, and that's probably not going to help, so try to go a little quicker with the pace today. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, without also then accidentally overlooking a Through the Ages card. All right, here we go. Let us deal out some packs. We have 6 for David F. 6 for JA. 6 for Typhoon. That is 6 for Michael C. And last but not least, we have 6 for FOP07. We're going to go 3, 2, 1, so we'll go 3, and then 2, and then 1 pack. Good luck, everybody. Let's have some fun. Hopefully pull some juice out of this box. So first couple of boxes from the Play Booster Box side have been very, very strong. So let's hopefully continue that trend today. There is our first Through the Ages card. Is a Finn the Fangbearer. It is an uncommon, so we do not count it. And our first rare is Minwoo, the white mage that is 5 for mana value, uncommon Demon Wall, and that will do it for that first pack. See another Through the Ages card. There's supposed to be about 1 per every 3 packs. Obviously, I shuffle them up. We do have Warrior of Light, which is Joda the Unifier. Actually, that's the first time I've seen Warrior of Light. That's kind of cool. That is a rare, and it is 5 mana value. Nice little hit there. Vanille. Summon Titan as our first summon of the box, our first summon rare. And an uncommon Self-Destruct. Self-Destruct is seeing a little bit of play, making it into mono red playlists. I imagine it pairs pretty well with Screaming Nemesis. All right, here we go. Next pack. Third pack. Eden, Locke. Zidane is a borderless uncommon, neat. And the Wandering Minstrel for a 2 mana value. So, what do we got going on here, David? 2, 7, 12, 17, 5, 10, 15, and 17 it is. I'm going to throw Joda on top. 17 mana value. All right. Through the Ages, you can get, again, and they're supposed to be roughly 1 per every 3 play booster packs. You cannot get the foils in the play booster box. You can only get them in non-foil. The foils are collector box only. JA, 3 for you. We've got Battle at the Bridge. It's an uncommon, but it's Fatal Push, which is pretty cool in its own right. Then you have the Prima Vista, Evil Reawakened, Renoa. Bart's and Boko's our first rare. That is a 5 for mana value. And then a Genji Glove, which is also 5 for mana value. Living the mana value dream there. That's already 10 for you. Play booster boxes. Quite a bit of variance on the Mythic count. I've heard boxes as low as 2. I've seen boxes in like the 6 to 7 range. We've opened a couple of 6ers.
Thinking about upgrading your car? Here's the easy way. With CarNop's trade-in option, I have to pay.
So, the NAWCQ is this up-and-coming weekend, and there are going to be everyone playing hella sweaty meta decks. I'm one of them. I'm definitely playing meta. However, there's a bunch of good rogue decks a lot of you guys can check out. So in this video, I'm going to talk about those decks in detail. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button for more. I'm uploading as much as I can throughout the week. And be sure to check out my new Discord in the description down below, and where I'll be talking about different Yu-Gi-Oh topics, having deck doctor things, and a whole bunch of stuff coming into my Discord. So if you guys been wanting to watch my channel, love my content, want to follow me on Discord for more little updates, link in the description down below to go follow that and help support the community in the Rogue Hero Army, as I like to call it. So, Rogue decks going to the NAWCQ. It's going to be crazy because a lot of these Rogue decks may be a surprise to you guys. Some may not, but after doing a lot of playtesting on Dueling Book, I've noticed I'm seeing a lot of consistent Rogue decks pop up that luckily for me I am beating. However, don't be surprised if you get caught with your pants down against these decks. First off, honorable mentions. One was Super Quantai. I played against that deck last night. Kind of ended my game early because it was a long-ass combo, but when the deck pops off, it essentially makes a Cleafort Towers that's really beefy with a bunch. It's like a turn skip deck. So if you let Super Quantai pop off, it's an FTK. And the other deck that's honorable mention is Blue Eyes White Dragon. It has decreased, in my opinion, from meta to rogue now. It's like
day in the world of Magic the Gathering. The community is absolutely on fire right now discussing the upcoming Star Trek Universe Beyond set. And on top of that, there has been a mass of Edge of Eternity's leaks, and you have to see some of these cards. They are insane. Magic. I am a wizard. History. I'm an old wizard. The Magic Historian. My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well, because we have gathered for a thick and juicy installment of Mega Magic news. We have an insane bucket load. A whole bunch of Edge of Maternity spoilers have been birthed into the world for us to look at. But before we dive into that nuttiness, we gotta talk about the absolute craziness that is the conversation surrounding Star Trek Universes Beyond, right? Now, obviously, we're dealing with Edge of Eternities right now, which is a space set which amps up the speculation around this. So that we are all on the same page, you guys need to see an image first things first. I'm going to pop it up on the screen. Now, this is a test card image for Star Trek that was released about a year ago. So this just showed up in the wilds. Now it did show up over on 4chan, which really does make it feel somewhat not credible, right? So that showed up about a year ago, maybe a little less. And it had been circulating for a while, right? People were talking about going, there's this Star Trek playtest card. Now, it's not a playtest card actually. What it is it's something that's used for surveys. So they would show, right? So
this is Pod 5, the first fully immersive sleep system. Intelligent, adaptive, effortless. It doesn't replace your bed, it transforms it. Pod 5.
That covers the Star Trek discussion. Now it's time to look at some insane Edge of Eternities cards. And you know what? I'm going to transform my being to discuss the universe. I have become the universe. You might even say, I have universal appeal. All right, I know that was terrible, but whatever. So we're starting out with Moonlight Meditation. 1 blue and 2 for an insane enchantment that says, enchant artifact or creature you control. The first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of enchanted permanents. So you might remember this from the teaser list that we looked at, right? This is totally wild. So if you're not quite grasping how it works, you slap this enchantment down on either an artifact or creature that you have out, right? And then the next time the game goes, make treasure tokens, go ahead, make whatever kind of tokens, munition tokens, whatever it is. Basically, instead of making those tokens, like if it said make 3 treasure tokens, you don't make 3 treasure tokens. Instead, you make 3 token copies of whatever this enchants. So that is incredibly powerful. Making tokens is super easy. Obviously, the downside to this is you put it on a permanent and your opponent destroys it before you even make any tokens, then you're getting 2 for 1. And that is obviously a big problem with enchantments in Magic, but the power level of this one makes it worth risking it, right? It is pretty strong. The flavor text does nothing for me. All is the hand that weaves the fabric of being. The fabric of being is all. Pretty empty, but the artwork is pretty sweet. Like moonlit meditation done from the actual cosmos itself, where you're out in space, is a wild concept. After that, we have Terra Symbiosis and Omen 5. And as they're playing, although that is, and then enters tapped, has exalted, sure does. So that is definitely a funky concept, even if it is a little bit weird to me to see spaceships in the sky. What are you going to do? This is the outer space set, right? I am currently a pig in space. All right, what do we got next? We've got, this is from the special bonus list. This is Cathedral of War. So it's a land that enters tapped, has exalted, and taps for a colorless. Notice, I think each of these has different spaceships on them, right? I didn't realize that before. There's a little rocket flying off on a different one, and this is definitely a completely different shape. It is pretty wild seeing that planet getting sucked into a black hole, though. That is interesting artwork, even if it feels jarring. Moving on. We've got Bonder's Enclave. Oh, it is different spaceships. Look, this one has a different spaceship zooping in. That one looks almost like it's half alive, right? Like some kind of giant space whale. So this is a land that taps for a colorless or 3 untap, draw a card, but activate only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. I love Bonder's Enclave because I play big green dumb decks. So this is an easy include that gives you mana and also gets you card draw. It's easy to have a beef boy out. So yeah, not too bad. The artwork, oh bro, there's a bunch of space whales floating around this asteroid. All right, that's pretty funky. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. A bunch of space whales circling like that is interesting. Moving on. we've got the Sliver token. You guys might remember when we talked about the teasers, I told you that there is a card that generates Sliver tokens at the end of your turn. So it'll make 2 of these little 1/1 dorks on top of having affinity for slivers and giving your slivers double strike and trample. If you didn't hear about that, go check out my Edge of Maternity's teaser video, all right? So next up, we got Pinnacle Starcage. This is an interesting one. 2 white and 1 artifact. When it enters, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until this artifact leaves the battlefield. So straight up, a powerful effect that'll get rid of everything that costs 2 or less in terms of artifacts or creatures. And it has 2 white and 6. Put each card exiled with this artifact into its owner's graveyard, then create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each card put into a graveyard this way. But you have to sacrifice this artifact, right? And you know it's pretty wonky. It's a pretty wonky concept of I'm going to trap all this stuff in here, but then I can free it myself if I want to. It's just going to the graveyard, right? So the cards don't come back into play with the it's weird because the cards will come back into play if you get rid of this artifact. But if the player if the player sacrifices it, then that's not going to happen because all the cards that are exiled with it go into the graveyard, so they can't come back to the battlefield. So it's an interesting way to permanently get rid of the permanents, but it affects your stuff too and gives you a bunch of 2/2 donks. Not too shabby at all for 3 mana. Very strong, awesome answer to decks that use a ton of tokens because you just jork them out and they're gone, right? On top of that, this is a very cool concept. If I'm not mistaken, this is a Dyson sphere. Now, I am not heavily versed in science fiction, so I just recently learned what a Dyson sphere is. And the idea is you take a star equivalent to like Earth's sun or whatever, right? Where all that, you know how we have solar panels? You take solar panels and you completely you ensconce this sun in the midst of endless amounts of solar panels. So basically every single particle of solar energy is being captured for you to use. And that is a super clever idea. Whoever first came up with that conceptually, it's awesome and it makes perfect sense. Like if you can harness the power of the sun, why wouldn't you want to like encapsulate the whole thing? Unless of course you needed its light to be emanating outwards. So this has a similar kind of vibe. And actually there is another one from Magic called Caged Sun, literally, which would also feel like a very good include. But I don't believe that the special guests will have anything like that. And the bonus sheet is all land. So we're probably not going to see Caged Sun, but very interesting conceptually, right? After that, we've got Evendo. It's a weird name. Waking Haven. So this is a land. This is one of those mythic land cycle that we talked about in the previous teaser video. And I told you guys that it would, at 12, would tap for a green for each creature you have, right? Here it is, right? The blue one does the same thing for artifacts. It gives you a blue for every artifact you have. The black one that we talked about recently, that has been spoiled as well. Since that one's older, I didn't include it. But just to let you know, the information we have on the cycle is correct. So this is pretty funky, right? You've got a planet here where nature is growing up in massive capacity. This kind of feels like it might go along with that green enchantment that we saw before in terms of a planet where the creatures are in symbiosis with it. So the more creatures you have, the more mana that you can generate. This planet, everybody is linked into it. But I don't know if it's actually connected to the Eumidians or anything like that. It's a cool card. Having to station up to 12 tokens. You have to tap 12 powers worth of creatures before you can actually use its ability. So it will remain to be seen how hype this card will be, but I imagine for things like Commander, where you have a little bit of more time to develop, that this will probably be a house and a go-to answer for people who can't afford $1,000 to buy a Gaia's Cradle or don't want to proxy it, right? Honestly, it's this one doesn't bother me as much with the space vibe, really. You know what I mean? I like the trees and nature growing up out of it, the spaceship zipping by. You got the black void in the back. Is that supposed to be Sulfera? Either way, it's not too shabby. All right. After that, we have Vote Out. 1 black and 3 sorcery. Convoke, so you can tap creatures to help cast the spell. Destroy target creature. And it says, democracy is not always just. I'm surprised it doesn't say exile. You noticed on the other card that we talked about in a recent video, the black creature destruction was also destruction instead of exiling. I think Wizards has kind of pulled back on the straight up exiling and stuff like that. We're in this crazy race where they keep adding ward and other abilities to cards to make them harder to get rid of, and then they make the answer stronger, but then you just get, it's an endless escalation. So this might be an attempt to slightly de-escalate. Look at this fat little four-armed blobby boy. He just looks so goofy. Yeah, I can see why they chose to vote him out. Get out of here. Oh, is this supposed to be a reference to that video game that everybody played with the two-legged fat guys where you have to vote people out and they get kicked off into space? Among Us? What is it called? I don't remember what it's called. Either way, I feel like that might be what this is referencing. Then we've got Cosmo Grand Zenith. This is a powerhouse card. 1 white and 2, 2/4. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, choose one. Make 2/1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So either grow your army or grow your army. You either grow it in amount or grow it in size. Make them bigger or make more of them. And that ability to make 2/1/1 creature tokens would dovetail beautifully with the blue enchantment that we saw at the beginning of these spoilers, right? Every turn, this will just generate 2 copies of your best permanent. You could literally enchant her with that enchantment. Oh, look, I put this enchantment on her. I go to make 2/1/1s. Nope, I make 2 more Cosmo Grand Zeniths. Oh, okay. So now the next turn when I cast my second spell, 3 of these guys trigger, right? Like, what? And the first one will make 2 more of these Cosmo Grands. So very cool. I don't like the outfit. I don't like this like weird, check it out, I'm in the future, and in the future we wear stuff on our chins. That's how you know it's the future. I got aluminum foil glued to my face, boy. I just don't like it. It does not vibe for me. The artwork feels boring. It really does. You've got a lady here with a crazy magic sword, but it just kind of feels dull, doesn't it? I don't know. Anyways, moving on. We've got Ruinous Rampage. That's what I like to go on, baby. 2 red and 1 sorcery. Choose one. 3 damage to each opponent, or exile all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. Now, back in the day, this would have been an insane super powerhouse card beyond all compare, and would have been a rare at least. But by today's standards, the power level has gotten so high that I don't know. I mean, it feels middle of the road to me, and it will literally hit everybody for 3, or exile every artifact that costs mana 3 or less, right? So get rid of a bunch of tokens, all that kind of stuff. It has some versatility, but its casting cost makes me wonder, is this actually any good? I don't know. Maybe it'll turn out that I'm wrong, but it is also sorcery speed, right? So I feel like this is probably the whatever. There's better ways to get rid of artifacts, right? You can just overload a spell and blast everybody's artifacts, all of them that aren't yours. So I don't know. I don't know where there's room for this card other than in limited. Moving on. We've got Warping Whale. Check out this crazy style, right? So this is a reprint. We're going to be getting styles like this. I find this to be pretty sweet overall. You take a look at it and go, hey man, not too shabby, right? One colorless and 1 to either exile a target creature with power toughness 1 or less, counter target sorcery spell, or create a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion creature token. Those are your options, and they're clearly laid out here, unlike a lot of secret layer treatment styles we see where you can't read the card. So you can see the casting cost, see what the card is. The only thing that's not accurate on this card, nobody's going to be selling this for 50 cents. You see that price tag? You ain't going to get it for that, right? Does it have a M for Mythic? Oh, it's a special guest, so they just automatically count it as Mythic. Okay, fair enough. So, not too shabby. Artwork's pretty wild, right? And then we've got Consult the Star Charts, a blue and 1 instant with a kicker of a blue and 1. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is a number of lands you control. Put 1 of those cards into your hand. If the spell was kicked, put 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is pretty underwhelming from a rare perspective, right? You pay 2 mana, you get to look at the top X card of your land, where it's equal to number of lands, so you can actually dig pretty deep. At the beginning, you're not going to get to look very much, right? You got 3 lands out, you're going to look 3 cards deep. But you got 10 lands out, you're going to get to look 10 deep. And when you pay the kicker, you can actually get 2 cards. You know, the more I think about it, it actually is one of those cards that at first feels underwhelming, but once you play it in practice, you realize it's got a lot of maneuverability. It can give you 2 cards out of the top X number of cards out of your deck and cost at max 4 mana and is instant speed. I'll fully admit that when I read it first, I was kind of underwhelmed. And speaking of underwhelmed, I find this artwork to be really uninspired. I know that this is just some dude standing here working digi keyboards or whatever, and the spaces around him, he's in like a little hologram deck or whatever, but it just feels so generic. There's nothing exciting about this artwork. There's nothing eye-catching about it. There's nothing to draw you in. There isn't a sense of urgency. There is like, consult the star charts for what? This guy looks like I look like when I'm looking at a fortune cookie. You know what I mean? Like, okay, whatever. It's that kind of a vibe. So a solid card, but kind of forgettable artwork, right? So the last card we're going to talk about is the Infinite Guideline Station. This is one of every color for a 715 spacecraft. You do have to station it to 12 to get there though. So when it enters, create a tap 2/2 robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. So this guy counts. You will get to make at least one 2/2 robot. So this is the only spacecraft that I know of that literally generates creatures that can station it, right? Pretty crazy. And then when you get it stationed, whenever it attacks, you draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control. So it'll be a 715 flyer that draws you at least one card every time it attacks. That's pretty nutty, and this can be your commander, which feels weird. This space base is my commander. But that wraps up all of the spoiler cards that I had to discuss. Let me know your favorites down in the comments. A big thank you to both my channel members and my patrons for supporting my channel directly. You guys rule, and I will see you all, my friends, in the next video. It's an absolutely nutty day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just revealed a whole bunch more cards from the upcoming Final Fantasy set, and they are totally ridiculous. Wizards of the Coast have lost their minds. Magic. It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just given us our first look at Edge of Eternities, and it is bonkers. On top of that, there is some serious Magic market panic going on right now that's caused by Final Fantasy. Magic. I am a wizard! History. The Magic Historian. My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well, because we have gathered for another crazy installment of Mega Magic News. Now, Magic's not the only thing going crazy right now. You might have noticed that it looks a little bit weird on the screen, and the reason for that is, unbeknownst to me, green screens can literally explode. This thing just went kablamo literally right before I started recording this video, and it's completely messed up my flow. I don't even know what I'm gonna do now because I literally just lost my green screen. I'll talk about the story of that tonight in a live stream over on my other channel. And actually, speaking of live streams, if you missed it, yesterday we were creating flavor text for Wonders of the First cards in a live stream. So that's over on the archive. If you want to participate, you can either get in on the flavor text competition by going onto my Discord where the cards are, or checking that out over on the live stream channel. Now, the other unexpected goodness that I want to talk about is the fact that my Evoke the Art awesome Final Fantasy inspired tokens have arrived. These things are sweet, and this is the sponsor of today's video. Take your Magic collection to the next level with ultra premium custom tokens. Zaximus Studios has just released a set of Final Fantasy inspired custom tokens. You get over 50 different options that range across Magic's history. For example, if you love the Brothers War like I do, guess what? You've got a Power Stone token in here. On top of that, these tokens have an excellent feature that I haven't seen anywhere else, where when you flip them over on the backside, they actually have a spot for you to... But anyways, whenever an artifact you control enters, put a loyalty counter on Tezzeret. 0 untap target artifact or creature. If it's an artifact creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So remember, this is something that can slot into any deck. Not every color has the ability to easily untap creatures. So this right here is already kind of bleeding out the color pie a bit, allowing other colors to get access to that ability more regularly, right? So on top of that, the fact that if it's an artifact creature, you can boost it up, not too shabby. That's 0 though. That doesn't increase his loyalty. So while I mean, technically the only way to increase his loyalty is by putting out artifacts. If you have other cards that'll let you boost it as well with Proliferate, you can, but notice he has no plus loyalty abilities. So he starts with that 4 loyalty. You can -3 off of it to search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it and put it into your hand and then shuffle. So a repeatable little Tinker Tutor effect right there, not too shabby. And then, or I should say like Trinket Mage style effect. -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it's not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot artifact creature. So this Planeswalker is pretty bonkers to me, right? You look at it and you go, okay, like getting loyalty counters on Tezzeret is super easy. All you have to do is generate treasure tokens, food tokens, anything along those lines, and you're going to boost them up on top of all the other crazy artifacts that are out there. This definitely looks to me like something that is aiming beyond standard, right? Like this is going to be in standard, but Wizards is targeting formats outside of standard by going, yo, you love playing with artifacts and stuff like modern and the oldest formats where all your moxes are free. You could get this guy out on the first turn easy in older formats, right? You can even Dark Ritual him out if you wanted to, if you wanted to be a little cheeser. But we're moving in to the space era of Magic. This one's going to be a weird one, boys, because the story isn't really connected to the rest of Magic overall. So we've got Tezzeret here. I wouldn't be surprised to see Nicol Bolas showing up because we had the whole Nicol Bolas is free at the end of the Tarkir story, so they might have decided to shove him into the space set. He did have a lot to do with Tezzeret in the past, but that remains to be seen. Overall, this is a very strong card that at first glance you might look at it and go, what really is it going to do? But remember, people said that about Oko when Oko came along, right? So ultimately, this is something to keep an eye on. That's all we have in terms of Edge of Eternity spoilers. Wizards of the Coast hasn't shared any more in that regard, and we're light on the leaks, but that makes sense. We're still full on in Final Fantasy season, right? We're literally like a week in. It's actually, now it's been 1 week since the set's been out, and markets are going absolutely insane. You might recall in a previous video that I put out, I talked about how we might not be getting any more of this product until the last quarter of the year. So the last 3 months of the year. So that rumor came out from a particular game store, and then other people were saying they didn't believe it. Wizards of the Coast has come out and made a statement saying more Final Fantasy product is available, but the wording that they're using for it is a little bit strange to me. So it could actually just be them saying they have other Final Fantasy products that are coming along, right? Because there is a gap in the production schedule further down in the year, which kind of lines up with the Lord of the Rings scene box release that we had, and like time frame wise when the Lord of the Rings was the new Universe Beyond release. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was another Final Fantasy product coming along. But Wizards, unlike with Tarkir, where they said there wasn't any more coming along and we wouldn't have more until the end of summer, so still a couple months maybe, although it might be a little bit earlier. With this one in particular, they're coming out and saying they have more Final Fantasy, but the underlying information that's being provided by game stores and distributors doesn't really add up to that. Speaking to game stores, I've been told that they have heard from their distributors they won't be able to get any more Final Fantasy until the end of the year, right? Final Fantasy is sold out in a bunch of different places. Just talking about play boxes, it is a very hit or miss kind of thing. So in some locations, it's completely cleared out. You go into the game store, you ask for Final Fantasy, they will laugh you out of the store because it's all gone, bro. Get out of here. And other people are in smaller areas. Like if you're in a major metropolitan area, probably cleared out unless your game store managed to stock up a massive amount. And remember, this is play boosters that we're talking about. Like the collector boosters are even crazier. The collector boosters have basically skyrocketed into insanity. All right, yesterday, Final Fantasy Collector booster boxes hit about $1,000 a box. And we're talking US dollars, right? Like if you wanted to get that here in Canada at $1,000, that would probably be like $1,500. There is a massive disparity. But either way, it's gotten up to $1,000 yesterday. When I got up today, it had climbed up to $1,200, and there's no sign of this stopping. Unlike other sets where everybody knows the rhythm. The stuff comes out, everybody's hyped about it at the beginning, grabs what they like. Not everybody. Some people know, chill, take a step back. I'm going to step into my green screen. Take a step back and wait a week, wait 2 weeks, wait 3 weeks for the prices to settle as everybody opens their product and supply hits the market. But we've got a special kind of panic going on where people have realized, and you can see this if you go and check out, there are different circles where people talk about Magic Finance. And if you go and check out the Magic Finance circles, they're like, what is going on? I keep waiting for the cooldown. It's not coming. And somebody's like, there was a cooldown for like 2 hours one day, and that's all you're going to get. So it appears what's going on is Final Fantasy has a ton of fans with very deep pockets. Looking into it, somebody actually made the offhanded comment saying, guys, don't you get it? Final Fantasy made like a $15,000 statue of a character from, I think it was Final Fantasy 14 is what they're saying, but it might have been a different game. Either way, they made a Final Fantasy statue that was selling for $15,000, and it basically sold out in less than a day. So Final Fantasy players have a lot of money, but they don't know anything like, or Final Fantasy fans, they don't even have to be players, right? So they don't know about Magic. They don't know about the whole take a step back and you'll be able to get it cheaper, more is coming. They're just like, oh, I gotta grab it now. I want the collector stuff. I want these cards. I have never seen any Magic product to date where there are so many people coming in going, I know nothing about Magic and I want to collect this. Are these prices terrible? What product should I be buying? How can I get this? It's absolutely astounding. You have to give Wizards credit in terms of picking the right Universe Beyond product where this is the biggest frenzy that Magic's ever had. Lord of the Rings was definitely a big deal. A lot of that was based around the One Ring, and Wizards has learned to a degree, and this time around they've made 77 golden chocobos, and that's part of the market insanity too. Apparently about 20 to 25% of the golden chocobos have actually been found out of booster packs. And we talked before about people trying to sell them for like $200,000 and not actually going through, but there have been successful sales ranging from $27,000 to $40,000 for these golden chocobos. And they basically, if only 20-25% of them are out there already, there is a significant chunk remaining to act as that sort of lottery. Let's keep going. Let's keep getting the collector boosters, right? And there's also the gift bundles that are coming out for Final Fantasy that will have these collector packs in them as well. So the chocobo serialization is actually a lot more successful for Wizards than the One Ring was. The One Ring generated the most hype that Magic the Gathering had seen to date, and I don't think that Final Fantasy is going to get as much widespread awareness as the Lord of the Rings set did, because there are 77 of the chocobos, and they'll never go for like $1 million, right? You're not going to have a big news story where Post Malone buys a golden chocobo. Nobody's going to really care about that. That's not going to move the needle. So Wizards has maneuvered it to the point where now it's not as big and flashy overall to the world, but in terms of being enticing to individuals, chasing down golden chocobos, the ones that are probably going to be the biggest in terms of value are number 1, number 77, and then 7 out of 77, because then you get that 777 lucky, like gambly Setzer kind of like tie-in too, right? So when you look at the situation with what's going on, Wizards of the Coast has nailed it with Final Fantasy. All the market forces have come together really well, and it's caused an insane market panic where, like, not only are Final Fantasy people who know nothing about Magic coming in and just buying whatever they can get their hands on, whatever price, people who are entrenched in Magic the Gathering are noticing that this is happening and saying, I literally can't get this unless I get it now. The time to buy is now. That is how it's looking across the board when it comes to Final Fantasy. Now, obviously, there are people out there who are more well-versed in Magic financial matters and all that kind of thing. I'm a historian, not a financial analyst. So I could be wrong about this. I'm just telling you what's going on. Final Fantasy may eventually settle price-wise, but it's probably only going to be for the least desirable cards and only for regular non-foil versions. The Surge foils from collector boosters have been going bonkers. People held back when they saw Surge foils at $300. I'm like, man, I wish I bought it at $300 because now it's $700. Because insane, obtuse Final Fantasy collectors are coming in with insane money. If you see some of the people, the amount of collector boxes, there's one guy who all on his own claimed that he bought 8,000 boxes of collector boosters. Like, it's mind-numbing. And he literally had screenshots of all these finished sales and stuff being shipped. And it didn't come across to me like somebody who's manufacturing receipts for an internet brag. Like, Final Fantasy is the biggest monster that Magic has ever seen from a financial perspective. And this panic around it is going to lead to problems in the future because Wizards of the Coast is going to turn around and show this profit to their shareholders. Look at this banger action. And the shareholders are going to be like, more. And then they're going to turn around and go, Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man unfortunately didn't do quite as well. Oh, Avatar. Ooh, Avatar didn't even do as good as Spider-Man. Uh-oh. And then 2026 is going to roll around. And how does Wizards get the banger numbers of Final Fantasy? Are they going to go Final Fantasy 2? The redo? Like, we know we're going back to multiple different properties, but it took them 5 years to make this set too, right? So Magic is in an absolutely wild space. I can't. Look at this. Look this. Oh. Okay, well, I think we better wrap this up before the whole place collapses. I got to figure out what I'm going to do about my green screen lack. We might just be going white wall for a while. All right, so I'll be over on my live stream channel tonight. I'll tell you the story about this. Like I mentioned, the flavor text stuff for Wonders is also going on over there, so check out that live stream. You can participate if you leave comments either on that live stream or in my Discord. I will include them to the stuff because I'm taking all these flavor texts and we're going to call them down and submit those to the company. So if they want to put them on the cards, they can. So that's a fun little thing you can get involved with if you ever wanted to put flavor text on cards. All right. So a big thank you to Zaxima Studios for sponsoring this video. Again, the tokens that they are offering are fantastic. It's an absolutely wild day in the
Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and today we have another batch of leaks from Magic the Gathering's Edge of Eternity's expansion. It's absolutely crazy how many cards continue to leak from this set, and they're all looking crazier than the last batch of cards every single time we get more. It's just kind of insane. We're going to go over all of the new leaks. I think there's about 8 cards for us to tackle here. Before we do, please like the video. It helps me get it out to so many more people and helps the channel grow. I would appreciate it more than I can express with words. And be sure to subscribe because we have tons of crazy content on the way. More spoiler content. Spoiler season starts officially next week. And there continue to be leaks apparently up until then even. And we're going to be on top of that, getting that stuff out to you ASAP. Not to mention some crazy deck techs I have coming for Standard, which I can't wait to show you guys. So subscribe, do the thing, catch me live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/quarantinedcapricorn because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. Now let's talk about these cards. So first of all, we're going to start with an official spoiler that we didn't cover on yesterday's video. This is Command Bridge. And it's kind of interesting. It's nothing super crazy, nothing to write home about, but it is interesting. It is a common. It enters tapped, and it taps for a mana of any color. And when it enters, you sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped permanent you control. I like that you can tap literally any permanent in order to keep this in play. You can tap tokens, you can tap enchantments, where there's no reason to not tap them, which is kind of cool. And this is just going to be a really easy way for us to color fix in limited, to be able to go multiple colors, especially 3+ colors in limited, which seems really interesting to me. So not really a big hit for like constructed or anything outside of limited, but I do think this is pretty cool for limited, and I think the flavor is actually really on point as well, because, you know, it's a command bridge. But next up, we have our first leak today. This is Starfighter Pilot, a 2/2 human pilot for 1 white and 1, and whenever this creature becomes tapped, you surveil 1. Obviously, this is supposed to reinforce the idea of station being an important part in the set, having tons of spacecraft to station, especially in limited, having something like this at the common rarity where not only is it your 2/2 for 2, but you get a little bit of extra value whenever you use it to station things by being able to surveil as well. And of course, it's not limited to just stationing things. You can attack and trigger this as well. So there is a little bit of versatility built into it, but it's very obviously meant to be just some extra value you can get whenever you're stationing stuff, which is pretty cool. Next up, we've got another leak. This one's an uncommon. Virulent Silencer. Now, we saw bits and pieces of this card in some previous leaks, but we've never seen the entire card just completely spoiled outright. So we're going to definitely take a moment to go over it here. This is a 2/3 artifact creature robot assassin for 3 colorless mana, and whenever a non-token artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. And apparently, the pumpkin decided to show up. She saw the silencer and she wanted to silence it. She's a bit of a hunter. But all joking aside, this card's interesting. I hope it's the only card that does poison counters, because poison's about to rotate, unless I'm mistaken, and I can't wait to see it go. Every single time we have some kind of a meta shakeup at all, sort of like the recent bans that we got, poison just kind of like rears its ugly head again. Everybody kind of goes back to poison and gives it another try, and I'm so done with it, man. I'm so done with the Dimir creatureless poison decks. I'm done with the Rot Priest bullshit. Like, just get it all out of here. That being said, a little bit of spice in the form of Virulent Silencer seems kind of cool. You know, play just a straight up artifact creature deck, have a way to give poison counters. Maybe you could make a deck that's this guy and Finn the Fangbearer, and then just play all artifact creatures with Death Touch, because then they could give poison counters with this guy and also give poison counters off Death Touch with Finn. And if you have them both out, you could give even more poison counters. And hopefully there's some kind of a proliferate mechanic within this set. I feel like they're sort of teasing in the direction of either proliferate or some kind of new mechanic that functions similarly to proliferate. So I don't know, there's a lot of potential for something like this, but we're gonna have to wait until we see the entire set spoiled before we know for sure how good it actually is. I do get worried though when I see poison, because it can get out of hand, and I can't stand those archetypes as they are right now. There have been times where I've been fine with them, but the way it is right now, the card pool that it has right now, it's just so annoying. It's just so annoying. But assassins are cool. My assassin deck might try to run this. No, it won't. No, it won't. Next up, we have Larval Scoutlander. This is a 3/3 artifact spacecraft for 1 green and 2. It stations, and when it gets to 7+ charge counters, it gets flying and becomes that 3/3. So once you've tapped a total of 7 power worth of creatures to get 7 charge counters on this thing, it's just a creature forever after that. 3/3 flyer. What makes this card super good is when it enters, you may sacrifice a land or lander, and if you do, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. This is like... what is that really popular, well-known ramp card? Maybe it's Yavimaya something. I don't know, but it was incredibly popular in the old rock decks. You would sacrifice a land and search for 2. You get to trigger landfall things twice. Just a lot of craziness. This is just a strictly better version of that card. If you guys can remember the name of that card, let me know below. I feel like it had Yavimaya in the name. I used to run it in the Rock all the time back in the day, like early days when the Rock was new. But this card is just a strictly better version of it. You get to sacrifice, not only do you have to sacrifice a land, but you can also just sacrifice a lander instead. So if you happen to play something that makes a lander token, which is, if you guys hadn't seen already in other leaks and spoilers, a lander token is an artifact token where you can pay 2, tap it, sack it, search for any basic, and put it into play tapped. So instead of actually using the lander token the way it's meant, you can just sacrifice it to this and not have to pay the extra mana. And you just get 2 lands. So that versatility of being able to sacrifice a land or a lander token makes this strictly better than previous versions of this sort of effect. And then you also potentially get this 3/3 flyer as just like extra value to boot. It's just sitting there. I would even argue you don't necessarily have to play this in decks that plan to use the flyer. I think it's going to be good even outside of that. You can flicker this and keep ramping, which is kind of insane, even if you don't abuse it that way. Like, just the versatility of sacking a land or a lander token is awesome. The fact that it not only ramps you, but it can also color fix you. You could sacrifice your swamp because you already have a swamp and find an island and a mountain, right? Just so much that this can do. It double triggers landfall abilities, and we already know landfall is really trying to be a relevant archetype in Standard. Got a lot of support in Final Fantasy. So everything about this card seems awesome. Flickering it just seems crazy. And the fact that there's just free value in the form of this 3/3 flyer, if you can station it up to 7+ charge counters, just makes it that much crazier. I don't think it's quite crazy enough to be a rare, but it's on the cusp, man. Like, for an uncommon, I think this card is absolutely insane. It's just strictly better than old cards that have done similar things. It's even if you don't want to use this artifact to flicker it or to turn into a creature or anything, you could still go wide with an artifact. I mean, hell, it can trigger Simulacrum Synthesizer. You can sacrifice it to Disturbing Mirth. Like, there's just so much value baked into this card, it's nuts. I expect this card to be a huge, huge, huge part of the new meta after rotation. It just does everything. It does everything you want. It's so good. Next up, we've got Starfield Shepherd. A 3/2 angel with flying, very cool, a cosmic angel, for 2 white and 3. When it enters, you search your library for a basic plains card or a creature card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle, and it has warp for 1 white and 1. So when you cast it, you can instead cast it from your hand for its warp cost, but if you do, it only stays out until the end of your turn, and then you immediately exile it. It goes into exile, and then on a later turn, you can play it from exile for its normal cost. So very similar to the way adventures work. It's kind of like Evoke mixed with adventures. Instead of sacrificing the creature right away and only get the ETB stuff, like Evoke, you keep the creature until the end of turn. You don't sack it, you exile it. You still get the ETB stuff. But then, like adventures, you can hard cast the thing from exile later on, and then still get whatever ETB value it generates. That just makes cards like this kind of nuts. Like, on curve, you can just pay 2, put this down as a 3/2. It's not going to do anything for you as a creature that turn, but it will find you a plains, help you get, you know, maybe the second plains that you didn't have to cast this thing initially. Or if you don't need a plains, it can find another creature. And then later on you play it and it finds another one. Like, all of that just seems awesome to me. This card, for an uncommon, seems really, really good. I feel like it's good in a way that most people are going to overlook, which I think is really, really interesting. But the value you can get here is nuts. And I need to remind you guys that all of these warp creatures are even better than they look on the surface, because you can use flicker effects to make them come back into play as their big version and then stay forever. So if you had like a 2-mana flicker spell, you could warp this out for 2 on turn 4, use the 2-mana flicker spell, and not only do you get 2 triggers of this, but it stays as a 3/2 flyer as well, which just seems pretty crazy. I think flicker decks are going to be absolutely insane after rotation, and I've been messing around with brewing flicker here and there the past X amount of sets, and it's always been kind of good, but it's always been just shy of being great, and I think this set is really going to take it over the top. I really think there's going to be a super relevant flicker deck in the new standard, and I cannot wait to brew it. But the next card is Tapestry Warden, a 3/4 artifact creature robot soldier with vigilance for 1 green and 3. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and each creature you control with toughness greater than its power stations permanents using its toughness rather than its power. Is this finally enough, or maybe this in conjunction with a couple more cards coming in this set that fit into this archetype? Could this be enough to finally make a Toughness Matters deck actually relevant in Standard? Maybe. This thing is basically functioning like it's a 4/4 Vigilance for 4, which is already kinda good, especially in Limited. It also counts as an artifact, which I think is going to be super relevant after this set drops. But then in addition to that, it also stations well, and it affects all of your other creatures, and it's optional. So you don't have to worry about playing this in a deck where some of your creatures have higher power than toughness, because it's only if their toughness is greater that it's going to do it. So it's the best of both worlds. It can beef up itself, it can beef up, you know, some of the cards in your deck, and then the cards that are going to be better using their power, it leaves them alone to do their thing. There's just so much to love about this card, and it gets me really excited about what this archetype might look like in Limited. I'm crossing my fingers that it has a ton of support and there's an entire archetype in Limited that is built around this sort of thing, because I think it's time, guys. I really think it's time that a deck like this and cards like this are finally relevant in Standard. And as long as we have, you know, enough of a card pool for Limited at least, which I think this is a hint that there will be, there's a chance that it could be relevant enough in Standard as well. So I'm excited to see where it lands, but we're going to move on. The next card spoiled is the first of 2 rares that has leaked since my last video. This is Nova Hellkite, a 4/5 dragon with flying and haste for 2 red and 3, which is already not amazing, but fine. But then, when it enters, it deals 1 damage to target creature and opponent controls, which makes it better than fine. Now, you could kill a mana dork, which seems really good. There are definitely a few relevant creatures this can just kill, but it's also worth pointing out that if they have a 5/5 flyer, you can ping their 5/5 flyer for 1, immediately swing in with haste. Are they really going to want to block this and trade their 5/5 flyer for your 4/5 flyer? Probably not. So in some situations, that 1 damage just might act as a way to make it so your opponent can't block this guy, which is also kind of good depending on the situation. But what makes this guy really, really good is it warps for 1 red and 2. And because of the haste, you're getting a lot more value out of this when it warps. You're paying 3 mana, pinging something, maybe killing it, maybe stopping it from blocking, swinging for 4 in the air immediately, and if they don't trade with it, it's getting exiled and you can play it on a later turn for that full 5 mana and still get a ping off, which is really interesting. And just like I pointed out before, like all of the warp creatures, you can flicker this guy as well. So if you had like 5 mana in your hand, and you had a flicker spell in your hand, instead of just hard casting this guy from your hand, you could warp it for 3, play the flicker spell, do a damage, flicker it, do another damage, and actually kill a 2 toughness creature, while also still swinging in for 4 prior to the flicker. So there's a lot of cool things you can do. I think this card itself is the least interesting of the warp creatures we've seen so far. It's a little bit straightforward, and its ETB ability is kind of negligible, but it still gives us a good look at the direction they're going with warp and the kinds of things they're trying to do. Plus, it's just a sick dragon, so I think it's really cool, and I'm excited about what else they're doing with warp, but let me know how you feel about this card down below. That brings us to our last card of the day. This is another rare. This is Ice Till Explorer, a 2/4 insect scout for 2 green and 2. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. You may play lands from your graveyard. And it has a landfall ability. Whenever a land you control enters, you mill a card. Everything about this just seems kind of crazy to me. Especially knowing that we just got Traveling Chocobo in Final Fantasy. We just got all of these landfall payoffs. And now we have Ice Till Explorer. We saw, you know, the 3 mana thing that searches for 2 lands, the spacecraft earlier in this video. That goes really well with this. Getting to play an additional land on each of your turns is kind of gnarly. Getting to play them from the graveyard is equally gnarly. Getting to fill up your graveyard with stuff that you can do that with because of the landfall ability is also gnarly. If you have the Traveling Chocobo out, you're triggering that landfall ability twice. You're also playing things off the top, and you're playing things from your graveyard. So you're just milling cards, playing off the top, milling cards, playing from the graveyard. You could probably combo out to some really insane stuff. There's also a deck that I'm thinking about making where you use Hedge Shredder along with Traveling Chocobo and just all of the Surveil lands, because the Hedge Shredder makes it so that whenever a land goes into the graveyard from anywhere, it just goes into play. So anytime you surveil a land into the graveyard with the Hedge Shredder out, you just get to put a land into play, which will surveil because it's a surveil land, and put more things into the graveyard and put them into play. And if you have the Traveling Chocobo out, you're getting like double triggers, and it just gets really insane. And I feel like a card like this just fits into that. That might just be some kind of weird combo deck with different ways that it can kind of pivot depending on the board state. You don't necessarily need this card for it to function, but if they happen to get rid of like one of your combo pieces, this could sort of help fill in. There's just a lot of potential with a card like this. There's so much you could do with land being so relevant right now after the Final Fantasy set. But I am super curious what you guys think of this card and what you'd want to use it with, because I feel like there's a ton of untapped potential. I feel like there's a lot this thing could do and be comboed with in decks, because there's just so much land shenanigans, landfall shenanigans in Standard right now, and obviously so much more coming. We've even got the Lander tokens on the way. Like, land decks are about to be crazy, and there's just so many options to consider. So if you have ideas about what you could combo this with, what kind of deck you could build around this, definitely let me know in the comments, because I think there's just a ton of potential with this one. And man, this set is just looking absolutely crazy. But that's going to bring us to the end of the video, guys. When there are more leaks, more spoilers, I'll make sure to get that stuff out to you ASAP. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You're in the right place. And I have a ton of crazy deck tech content on the way as well. Some really interesting Standard brews that I don't think anybody else is thinking of that are super relevant now after the post-ban meta. So look forward to all that stuff, and be sure to catch me live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/QuarantineCapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. Smash that like button, do the like thing use your finger and press the like button, because it helps me so much. You don't even know, guys. You don't understand. You don't understand. Press the like button. Let me know in the comments if you did it, because I love you forever. I'll see you on the next one. I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Wonders of the First. Wonders of the First is a brand new collectible card game similar to games like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, featuring a unique action-based resource economy that helps avoid pitfalls like Mana Flood or Mana Screw, and a battlefield containing multiple realms that unlock over time as you fight for control of the stones. The first 400 card set is called Existence, and they've even partnered with Star City Games to host their competitive play tour at every single SCG-Con event starting in August. The game contains alternate borderless art variants, as well as highly sought-after limited edition numbered prints, culminating in a one-of-one stone foil. And the best part is that the developers have a community-first approach, with a card database and deck builder available via Cardio, as well as a version of the game available on Tabletop Simulator, all for free. For more information, be sure to check out wondersccg.com today. That's wondersccg.com. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.
Secret Lair, the Sonic Super Drop, has 3 drops that are part of it. The first one you see here has mechanically unique characters created just for this drop. 7 new legendary creatures. It's impossible to assign a value to this one because these cards didn't exist previously, but these cards didn't exist previously. That one sells for 40 and 50, so they've upped the price of the mechanically unique cards, but we've also got Sonic Turbo Gear here, which is selling for 30 and 40 that we would typically expect from a secret layer, and it's got about $36 of value in it, covered mostly between the Reaver Cleaver as Knuckles Gloves and Hammer of Nazan as Pico Pico Hammer. The other layer that's part of the drop is Secret Layer X Sonic Chasing Adventure, and this one has very little value to it, only about $13 worth of cards in this $30 or $40 secret layer, but it does contain the Soul Ring that you see coming into the picture right now, and if you're building one of those mechanically unique commanders, you're probably going to want that Soul Ring. Those are the values of the secret layers as they stand. I want to go through each of them individually and tell you what I think of the cards and whether or not I think they're great pickups or not. Joel R. Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards quickly and easily on the internet. TCG Player, the best place to buy them. Dragon Shield, the best way to protect them. And Moxfield, the only place to put your deck lists on the internet. Secret Layer X Sonic Friends and Foes starts off with Super State. All 7 of the cards in Friends and Foes are mechanically unique. That means they've never been printed before. They're not reskins, they're not reprints. These are straight up brand new cards. That means the only way to get these is going to be the secret layer. So if we look at value in these, they don't have any value because these cards have never existed, but they do have value because these cards have never existed. This is going to be the only place that you can buy these past the secondary market. The non-foil copies are going to be at some WPN stores. It's one of those types of drops that there will be a little bit more supply, but going into this, it's just tough to say, oh, this drop is worth X dollars because they've never existed. However, the cards in them are very strong. Super State is a 7-mana legendary aura enchant creature you control. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 9/9 and has flying, first strike, trample, and haste. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. I'm looking at commanders, obviously, that want to attack. Voltron, Aura decks immediately want this. Any deck that's running Ketis, stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be wanted in a few different archetypes. You've also got Knuckles here, 2 red, 2 other for a 2/4 double striking trampling haste. It says whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. So we've got a legendary version of Professional Facebreaker. We can play this out of the command zone. That's pretty sweet. And also says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 30 or more artifacts, you win the game. That's kind of cool. We've seen that on a dragon before. It's maybe going to win you a game here and there, but the more impactful part here is going to be a creature that allows you to create treasure tokens when you're dealing combat damage. I also really like Amy Rose. I just built Cloud, and I think this card is going to go right into Cloud decks because growing Cloud's power by 3 is pretty incredible for that deck's payoffs. Amy Rose is a white, a red, and 2 for a 3/3 with haste. Whenever Amy Rose attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment to her, already in line with that, and great in equipment decks, obviously. Then up to 1 other target attacking creature gets +X/+O, where X is Amy's power. That is what I'm interested in here, attacking alongside Cloud, automatically giving that +3 ability. Pretty funny to have Amy Rose and Cloud in the same deck anyway. Then we've got Dr. Eggman here, Grixis, a red, a black, a blue, and 2 for a 3/6 that flies. It says at the beginning of your end step, I like that you get the payoff immediately and don't have to wait till your next upkeep. Draw a card. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. They either discard a card, or you can put a construct, robot, or vehicle from your hand straight onto the battlefield. Interesting build around here, maybe good in Grixis vehicles decks that we've already seen. Miles, Tails, Prower, a blue, a white, and 1 for a 3/1 with flash and flying. Whenever a vehicle you control enters, draw a card if it has flying. Otherwise, put a